we can burn the end of the string. Don't light your guitar on fire. Living on the edge. Don't breathe in the chemicals. Hey guys. If you've ever picked up a classical guitar and noticed that the bass strings, the lower three wound with metal, if they sound a bit dull or they kind of lost their brilliance, it's probably because it's time to change them. Sometimes you can also tell because they look a bit discolored, rusty. So I thought we could walk through today how to change the strings on a classical guitar. Okay, so let's change these strings. To do this, you're going to need a new pack of strings, a peg winder. You don't absolutely need this, but it speeds up the process, and a nail clippers or something to cut the strings. The strings I'm using today are Aquila Alabastro light tension strings. I'm a big fan of light tension strings, and these are actually Nile gut trebles. It's a formula for synthetic gut. Although I like the sound of gut the best, this is a good solution if you don't want to go the gut route. Now today we're specifically talking about changing the strings on a classical guitar. This won't work for steel string acoustic guitars because they have a different system at the bridge. But actually the system that we're going to work with today is going to apply to flamenco guitars, classical guitars, ukuleles, all types of early guitars, lutes and things. So anything with a tie block bridge. So step one, take off these old strings. Now we don't have to be super careful here. Some people are worried about taking off all the strings at once and disturbing some type of tension balance on the instrument. In my experience, this doesn't make a difference, and the luthiers I've talked to seem to agree. So I think it comes down to preference. My preference is actually to do one string at a time, and that's just because the other strings stay in tune, and then when I put the new string on, I use the other strings to tune that string up, and then I go to the next string and I tune it up, and it just means I don't have to use a tuner, and for me it just makes sense in my head. Whether we start with string 6 or 1 or in the middle, doesn't matter. I like to start from the biggest string and work down to the top. So this is where it really helps to have a peg winder because it'll save you a lot of time. I like to pluck the low E first. We're going to start with the E, and then we're going to start turning. And the reason I like to hear the string is because I want to make sure I don't turn the wrong direction. Like, if I kept turning, the string's going to snap off at some point, and maybe I even risk ripping the bridge off. So pluck the string, make sure you're turning it so it goes all the way down. You don't have to be very gentle here. You just keep turning until eventually the string pops out. At the bridge end, very simple, just undo whatever sort of knot is there, pull the string out, voila, string gone. Okay, let's go to our new pack of strings here. Open it up. Actually, this is just going to be a set of basses I have here. Open up the package. These Aquila strings aren't actually labeled, so you just have to figure out which string is which based on the thickness, which isn't too difficult. So we're just going to undo this little winding here, and then you'll see very clearly that one is bigger than the rest, and that's going to be my low E. So we're going to start on the bridge side here, and we're going to put the string through the hole and out the back of the instrument. Now, if you have a traditional bridge that only has one hole per string, you'll have 6 holes, and then it's obvious where you put it. But there are some modern instruments, like this one, that have a double hole system. And the rule there, as far as I understand, is that for the bass strings, you put it on the hole closer to the ground, and for the trebles, the top 3, you put them on the one closer to your face. So in this case, I'm putting it on the lower 2 of the holes. I pull it through, and then I leave about, 3 or 4 inches. We're going to end up cutting the rest of this off, but the more you pull out, the easier it is to tie around. You just can't pull so much through that you don't have enough to tie up top. Okay, so once we have 3 or 4 inches sticking out the bridge side, I'm going to keep my other hand on the long end of the string, and actually I'm going to take the string, the short end, and wrap it underneath the long end, pull it taut. From here, I'm going to stick the short end through the little loop I just made, grabbing back to the long end, pull it taut. Now generally I like to go around twice. Depending on the thickness of the string, you might have to go over a different way. It's looking to me like I need to go around one more time. Okay, I've gone through the little loop twice, and the important bit is that the exit point, this excess string, it's going to sit on the underside of the bridge and not on top of the bridge. So I'll give it a little light yank. So now it's not going to go anywhere, and we go to the headstock side. And before we do that, I just want to mention that my online music school, Arpeggiato, is now offering a 20% discount on lessons. This is our biggest discount yet. So if you're ready to start lessons on guitar, ukulele, oud, lute, or other plucked instruments, just head over to arpeggiato.com. Now when you travel to the headstock, I like to trace the string to make sure it didn't accidentally loop under one of the other strings. That would suck to get it up to tension and realize you had a knot. So trace it to make sure that it's not intersecting any other string, and now I have the long end. I like to change the peg, move the peg until the eye of the scroll is sticking out in this direction, so it's ready to have a string. I don't like to find the hole with the string. So now we just go through, pull it taut. Now from here, with the long end of the string sticking out the back of the headstock, I like to go back up through the headstock, above the scroll it just went on, keeping the tension on the string when you do that. So now I have the long end looping through the headstock. And from here, what we're going to do is we're going to loop this new short end underneath the long string. I don't think it matters which side you go through. Make sure it's taut again, and now we have hooked underneath the string, and because it's wound, there's all this bumps, and that's really a lot of friction, so it's not going to go anywhere. And from here, I like to start winding to my left, if that makes sense. I'm not sure, that's counterclockwise, I guess. And eventually, it's going to catch, and so now I can let go, and I should have some pitch. From here, save yourself a lot of time and grab your peg winder. That's a good sound. And start winding. Again, pluck the string and wind just to get a reference of where we are pitch-wise. We don't want to go too high. So here's where I like to have the other strings, because I have my E, I need an E here, a little flat. Now you could stop there, but that for me would be a waste of time because it's going to go flat right away. So let's go a little sharp. You can't go too sharp because you don't want to put too much tension, but the instrument can handle at least one semitone or two semitones higher. Okay, let that just hang out. Now up until recently, I actually have been pulling on my strings to give them a pre-stretch. I was taught to do that. But I was actually warned by my friend Marshall Burnett, who's a really fantastic classical guitar luthier, that this can actually damage the core of the string and make it false. And I actually have been having a problem lately with false strings, and so he advised me not to do that. So I'm going to pass on the pre-stretch and instead just raise the string a little up and let it sink back down. Know that it's going to go flat right away, and for a little while that's okay. Just keep bringing it back up to pitch. Now at this point we have some excess string, and we have two options. Option number one is just to take the clippers and clip the excess really close to the knot without disturbing the knot and without accidentally cutting the nice string that you just tied on. That happened to me a few times. So that's option one. That's very cleanly and fine. Sometimes what I do for my more expensive instruments, or my more expensive strings, I mean, like if I have gut strings, which are pricey, I like to actually wrap the string around my finger, like that, to make a little loop of the string. Oops, that's not going so well. Okay, there we go. And with the excess, I put the string through the little hole, and now I have a little loop here. Sometimes you have to go through a couple times. Almost. There we go. So now I have a little curlicue. And if I want excess string for later that I can pull down, this helps. If you see my other video where I show this little trick, this also allows you to do a trick where if a string happens to snap at the bridge, then you have all this excess string you can pull down and just retie, and in 2 minutes you can save the string. So your call, trim or do a little cute knot. And now we continue, A string. While I'm winding the string, If you're enjoying these free guitar tips and want to help my channel, you can do so very easily by subscribing and liking it, sharing a video. And if you're really into the channel and want to help me make more videos, you can become a patron on Patreon and get all sorts of cool perks like behind the scenes content, extra guitar tips just for my patrons, and a lot more. So you can check those things out. So I have 2 wound strings to pick from that are left. Remember that classical guitar has 3 wound strings, E, A, D, and then 3 clear strings, if they're nylon, G, B, E. So out of my wound strings, I only have 2 left, and I have to figure out which one is bigger. In this case, there's one clearly bigger here, and that would be my A string. So let's learn how to tie a wound string around the double hole system. You don't have to use it actually, it works the same. But if you want to use the double hole system, the way it works is you go through the lower hole of the 2, the one that's lower to the ground, and instead of wrapping underneath the long string, we're just actually going to go around the bridge and through now the top hole. So I've made a little loop, and I'm going to go through the hole above the one I'm on. Okay, and now I have a little excess string sticking out here, and with that excess, I'm actually gonna put it through the loop, the little loop that I just made here, and now pull the long ends, trapping the little extra end on the top side again. And that does the same thing, it just stops the string at the bridge. I really think it doesn't make a difference which one you use. I don't actually know why they invented the double hole system. I think it just looks better. A common mistake that I've seen some people do is that before they start, they actually cut the string to the length that they think they're going to need. Never pre-cut your strings. They're longer for a reason, to make it easier to tie them on. So I have way more string than I need once it's tied to the bridge, but that makes it easy to tie. If you pre-cut it and then maybe you're a centimeter short, you're out of luck. So do not cut your strings until after it's all tied together. And actually another thing I see people do sometimes is they put the string through and tie a little knot, and they have all this excess string sticking out. They have to coil the entire string into the scroll, and it takes forever to wind, and it takes forever to unwind, so I don't personally see the point. Now while I'm winding up my new A string, I can recheck my E's, the low E string, so it's in tune, and now when I do the A, it needs to go higher than the E by a perfect fourth. And the song for a perfect fourth is Here Comes the Bride. So, here comes the bride. It should be the A string. Here comes the bride. Comes the bride. And it just sounds like a perfect fourth, which is very, very pure. No beats. If you don't like Here Comes the Bride, you can also do Ice Ice Baby from the upper string. That should sound really good. Again, let's bring it sharp, just so that the string can settle in a little bit. Now with my D string, it's a thinner string than the E or the A, and I went around twice through the loop, but the back, the exit point of the string doesn't seem to want to go on the back, so I'm going to loop around one more time. And now it sort of naturally falls on the back, and I just get it more taut. Maybe it's worth saying just double check that you're going to the right peg. Don't forget my favorite acronym for the string names. Eddie ate dynamite, goodbye Eddie. E-A-D-G-B-E. You know you're getting close when the string that's supposed to be higher passes the lower string. And now we're looking for Here Comes the Bride, the perfect fourth. Here comes the bride, here comes the bride. There it is. Now normally you'd be tying on new trebles. I'm actually repurposing some old Nylagut trebles that I've had in the past, just for this video. So you'll see they're a little bit worn out and they're kind of pre-shaped, but normally they'd just be one long string. These are the Nylagut strings, by the way. They kind of look like a white yellowish color as opposed to nylon, which is clear like plastic. So I'm looking for my G string, and again, it's the thickest of the 3. Don't misplace the other 2. Same deal, with the guitar in our lap with the headstock facing to the left of us, we can go through the bridge hole to our right. If you have only one hole, it's obvious, but with the treble strings, if you have the double hole system, go through the string closer to you. For the normal method, it's the same as the wound strings. We're going to go 3 or 4 inches out of the bridge, underneath the long end, and then through the loop we just made enough times to have the string exit on the back end of the bridge. Often with the trebles, it takes at least 3 for me. Oh no, I just did something that I told you not to do. I guess this is a good learning moment here. Because this is an old string that I was repurposing, it was pre-cut when it was already on the guitar, and that means I tied it to the bridge, but look, I didn't make it to the G, so now I'm gonna have to get creative. And this, children, is why you don't pre-cut your strings. Okay, I'm gonna use the double hole method that I think I used last time because it uses less string on this end. So it goes through the same hole, the string closer to me, and I'm gonna go back around and through the second hole. In this case, it's closer to the ground. And then I'm gonna go with that little tiny end through the loop I just made, trying to salvage as much string as possible because I'm not gonna make it otherwise. I pull it taut. Okay, let's see if I can do it. We have just enough. Okay, it's gonna work. Good. That is really annoying, so that's also another good reason to just not cut the long end of the string on the headstock side. I find my next thickest string. There's only B and E left, so B has to be the thicker of the two. As we get to the B and E strings, the strings can get very slippery and thin, and so make sure you tie enough times around if you're doing the traditional method, because if it slips out, it's going to whack the top of the wood and put dings and damage the top of the guitar. You can also just put a thick piece of paper on top here to protect the guitar. Now if you're a pyro and you really want to make sure that string goes nowhere, well, we can burn the end of the string. Don't light your guitar on fire. Living on the edge. Don't breathe in the chemicals. Now you have a little ball that's created on the end of the string, and now it'll catch and it won't pop out on you. The first time you do this, you're bound to make some mistakes, you know, so plan on spending a good half an hour to an hour the very first time. But there's no reason you should be bringing your guitar into the shop to change the strings. You can, if you have a guitar, you can change the strings. This is the moment where we're no longer tuned to fourths on the guitar. All the strings are tuned to perfect fourths except for the G to the B, the third string to the second string. That's a major third, and if you want a song for that, you can do Do a deer. Do a deer, and the deer is the B string. So Do a deer, and that should be a B. You can double check by playing Ice Ice Baby from the first string. So that would be too high, that'd be too low. There we go. And like I said, although your first time might take you a while, once you've done this a lot, it's pretty easy, and it takes me about 12 minutes to do the whole thing. Okay, the guitar is restrung, and now we just have to clip off the excess strings. Don't cut the good strings, or tie them into little curlicues if you want to salvage the strings for later. Mind you, the guitar is not going to stay at this pitch. It's going to instantly go flat, and every time you pick up the guitar, it's going to need to be tuned up again for at least a few days, and then the strings will stabilize. And now you should hear a lot more resonance and shimmer in those new bass strings especially. It's hard to tune now, it's going flat already on me. But it still sounds so good, it sounds like my guitar has come to life and I have a brand new instrument. So, thank you so much for watching. Please do subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys next time.